So, it's less than 3 months until the Olympic Games begin, but polls are showing 60% of the Japanese population want the Games to be cancelled.
The country has extended a state of emergency in Tokyo as it struggles to contain a surge in COVID cases. So, should British athletes even be travelling there for the Olympics? Joining us now, 2 Olympic medalists. Seb Coe is president of World Athletics and, frankly, an Olympic legend. He's just been in Tokyo, says the Games should definitely go ahead and we should be part of them. But former world badminton champion Gail Emms says it isn't right for Team GB to go to Japan. A very good morning to you both. Seb Coe, you have been out there.
Yes.
How are they making it COVID secure and dealing with the fact that 60% of their own population don't want this to go ahead?
They're making it COVID secure by some of the tightest protocols that I think anybody's witnessed in, sadly, the last year and a half of the pandemic. And let me just put that into perspective. It took me 2.5 hours to get through the airport. I was tested before I flew, obviously, tested immediately we landed. I had a team of 15 with me from World Athletics. We went straight to the hotel. We weren't able to be in contact with anybody literally from the outside world. We sat in the hotel waiting for yet another test to be done. And we were bubbled. And on the day of the competition, we went from the hotel to the venue and from the venue back to the hotel. And we were then tested twice a day while we were there. So they are very, very serious about this. And looking forward to the Games, the athletes will go through exactly the same process. The only additional point, I think, will be village to venue and probably the ability to get to the training track. And in athletics, World Athletics terms, the athletes will not be coming in for more than a few days before the competition. And whether they get to the final or get bombed out in the first round, they're on the way home. So they are taking this incredibly seriously, as we are, because we not only want to protect the athletes, we do want to protect those communities that our Games are being delivered in.
Seb, I can see you've got one of my favourite sporting pictures of all time on the wall behind you. I want to just go back, before we talk more about Japan, to London 2012. You were utterly critical to that, and I don't know if you know this, but it's 3 years to the day since Tessa Jowell died. And I want to talk about legacy, because her legacy, Tessa Jowell Foundation, and they're now rolling out the NHS Centres of Excellence. But I want to ask you whether you think, because this is another question for the Japanese, has the legacy that was promised of 2012, has it actually been delivered?
Look, Tessa was a remarkable woman. She really was. We owe so much to her. The delivery of the Games, the legacy that you just asked about. And if you look at what she set herself as an ambition around legacy, then I think the scorecard reads pretty well. 50,000 jobs in East London, venues in sport that we would never have had, new homes, new businesses. And then if you look at the improvement and the funding that went into Olympic sport at the elite level, and then in participation, it's never an easy graph, but more people are running, more people are cycling, more people are involved in triathlon. And those are the sports that are really adding to physical activity, or the pathology of physical inactivity. And sadly, I think the only minus mark on that would be the unnecessary political football that school sport became. That always saddens me. I think we could have done a great deal more. But across the board, I think Tessa would be looking back at this moment and thinking, yeah, we pretty much achieved everything we set out to do. Not perfect, but pretty good.
Gail Emms, none of us can forget that incredible experience of having the Olympics here. But you don't want the Olympics this year to go ahead. I just wonder, as an athlete, if you were in a different position and you were going to be going, wouldn't you think, please, I am on the peak, on the sort of edge of the peak of my performance, my training is all led up to this. Don't take that away from me.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Susanna. This is paining me to say this because obviously I know what it's like to be in that situation. It was my childhood dream to be an Olympian. And if I was training right now and I was just be like listening to all the news going on, I'd just be like, just let me go, let me go. This has been my whole dream, my whole life. I'm training every single day, waiting for that moment to get that medal to perform for my country. But I'm on the other side now. And it's different. And you come out of that bubble because Olympic and elite sport is a bubble. It's not real life. And when you look at what's happening in the world, and great that, you know, Seb talking about, oh, yeah, testing this, test every 2 hours or whatever. That's not an Olympic Games. That's not what we dream about. We dream about looking up into the crowd, seeing our friends and family who've done everything for us, that sacrifice, the dedication, you know, the tears of running into the crowd and hugging your family because you've competed for Team GB.
There were a number of those arguments were used about the return of football, for instance, that it wasn't going to be the same and it should just all be cancelled until COVID was over. Fact of the matter is, football went ahead, it carried on in exactly the same sorts of conditions. We have to accept, don't we, that we're living with COVID. We can't just cancel everything because of COVID.
True, but this is something, the Olympics is the true essence of the Olympics. What was that really about? It's the coming together of loads of athletes around the world for the faster, higher, stronger motto, to perform in front of the country, a celebration of sport. What is the purpose of the Olympics right now? Have we lost that real, true essence of it? Is it become, oh, we need to save money, we've lost all this money, that's why we have to go ahead? If it's because of that, then it shouldn't go ahead.
Seb, how much is this about money?
We're losing it.
Seb, how much is at stake if the Games are cancelled?
Can I make a broader point here? 70% of athletes that are going to the Games will only have one shot at this. Gail and I were lucky. We actually did 2 games. 70% are not. You cancel that, that's 3/4 of all those competitors you're discarding. And I don't want to do that. I think we can go to the Games. I think the COVID protocols can be safe and secure. And I don't want to be quite as sanguine about 3/4 of those competitors who've spent over half their young lives devoted to this moment. And Gail's quite right. She talks about families. But let's remember that families have also been the longest and truest sources of sponsorship, even when we hit the heights and, you know, some sponsorship comes our way. If you amortize that across the 10 or 15 years, families are on the hook. And I think we have to do everything we possibly can. And I speak to the athletes all the time. That's my job. And they are accepting that these protocols will be tough. They know that these will not be a Games business as usual. They are accepting that, and they're accepting it because, first of all, they want to observe those protocols. They know that they don't want to jeopardize themselves or their families, and certainly not the communities that we're going to in Japan. But there'll always be a good reason not to do something. Football's come back, rugby's come back, tennis has come back. Why would you not give the Olympic Games every opportunity?
So
We'd
just
accept
briefly,
it. There may not be crowds in the stadium. The athletes have accepted that. The athletes, for goodness sake, have been performing. We've delivered 600 events in the last year.
Seb,
and not one of them has been a COVID super spreader.
Seb, you mentioned football there. I know you're a massive Chelsea fan, and in normal times we want to go to the Champions League final. You're also a sports administrator, and you know what these UEFA bigwigs are like. Where do you think the Champions League final should be held, and what are the hurdles to it being in Wembley?
Well, there are plenty of hurdles. Where should it be held? It seems ridiculous that you would send 2 English clubs competing in a competition into Istanbul that's on the red list. So clearly putting the championships closer to home and somewhere where our fans can get to without inordinate cost, if they're able to, has to be the virtuous outcome. Whether it is the outcome, I don't know.
Yeah.
And let me go back. The finances here around the Games are important because if you cancel the Games, you are then jeopardizing the Olympic sports. Their lifeline is the broadcast revenue. And that broadcast revenue, 80-90% of it goes back to the sports, who then in turn deliver it to the athletes for the programmes and the competitions that we want to see take place.
Gail Emms, if you were going to the Olympics, if it was, you know, your chance, Would you make a unilateral decision that you wouldn't go?
No, I would, because Team GB are amazing. British Olympic Association are the best association we've got, in the whole Olympics. It's about the IOC making the decision, it shouldn't be down to Team GB. The IOC should have made this decision a few months ago and should have looked at the bigger picture. That's what I'm more annoyed about. It shouldn't come down to an athlete or an Olympic organisation.
All right, Gail Emms, thanks very much indeed. Seb Coe, good to see you as well this morning. We did run a Twitter poll on this. We asked, should Team GB be going to the Tokyo Olympics?
Oh, my God.
And only 12% said they should. An overwhelming 88% said don't travel there. Still huge.
I'm definitely with the 12.